I tell you, I can't get away from this pull to come closer to God, to know Him in a deeper, more intimate way. This is things I dream about at night. All day I think about this, all the time, in every situation that I'm in. Back in October, Christians around the world and in this country prayed for America, while tens of thousands of Christians met in Washington, D.C., praying for the will of God to be done, praying that God would be glorified in whatever happened. And we're walking that out today. There are forces that we are up against. We are being set up. This country is being set up. Christians are being set up. The annoying and the ignorant are being set up, and they don't know what's happening. They don't even have a clue what's going on, what's being planned for this country and other countries in Western civilization. The call of God has not changed since Adam and Eve. And the call of God is, come close, come near, stay with me. Let's walk in the garden hand in hand in the cool of the day. Let there be no separation between you and I. And God is still, that call has not ever changed since then. And we are in a place today where we are going to have to live there. We don't have any options. We as Christians are having the thinking that we are going to go this alone, that we're going to make it, that we're going to kick the devil's butt. No, we're not. God is, and we're going to go through some things. God's going to be the victor. But in that, we do get to minister Jesus Christ to the people. We do get to pray for the sick. We do get to see people healed and delivered. And really, that's what it's all about. Years ago, my wife and I started on a what would be termed an adventure. And I'll tell you about this adventure. My wife and I were working normal jobs like everybody else, making gobs of money, had a house, vehicles, all that normal stuff. And one night, I heard my wife yell from the bedroom, "I want an adventure!" And then she yelled again, "I want an adventure!" And then she yelled again, "I want an adventure!" And then she yelled the last time, "I want an adventure!" Soon after that, we were on an adventure. Her desires of her heart came true. Let me tell you, there was a film that we watched, documentary on the founder of Patagonia Clothing Company, and then his friend who created mountain climbing equipment. And they started this all back in the 70s. And they traveled all around the world. Mount Everest, down to the deepest oceans, everywhere in between, all over the world. And they did say that an adventure doesn't start until something goes wrong. Well, we were kind of thrown in that. But we didn't know at the time, like everybody else is thrown into certain circumstances, that God's hand was in it. We started on this adventure. We lost nearly everything we had. And at every turn that we could see a way out of the predicament we were in, God put a stop to that. Any plans that we came up with, He cut it off. And it was very unconcerning, frustrating. We went through a lot of things together, Jody and I. And things that looked detrimental to us at the time were actually God's opportunity to do something really great. In the midst of adversity, in the midst of chaos and what appeared to be confusion and uncertainty, He had His hand on every aspect of our lives. At the time that it looked like everything was going to go wrong, God did a miracle. This amazes me every time I think about this story. Someone's knocking at my door here. I'm going to turn my phone off. There we go. A little bit of a cold. God pulled our fat out of the fire many times. There were legal things that came up. There were employment things that came up. And every time that it looked like we were going to succumb to circumstances and not have a way out, God did a miracle. I could tell you things, I could tell you the whole story, but that would take quite a long time. And some of the things my wife would be able to tell better. But I tell you, God put the screws to us. And one day or one night we were coming to the point where we would thought that we would have to split up, and we talked about it, and my wife turns to me and says, if we split up, we won't be Brian and Jody anymore, and that kind of hit me in my heart, and helicopters coming in. I went to bed that night. She slept in one room, and I slept in another, since we were going through a hard time. And the Lord gave me a dream. And I won't go through the entire dream, but the end of the dream, or the conclusion of the dream, was that if I left Jody, or if we split up, then the light, that there would be no more light from the Lord, learning from Him. We would have the light that we already had, but there would be no more. We would still be Christians, we would still be walking with God, but we would live this substandard existence before the Lord. And that's not something either of us wanted to endure, is being apart from Him. So we made a decision and a commitment to stay with each other. We made a decision to turn our will over to the Father's will. As difficult as that is, because you never know what His will is going to entail, what roller coaster ride you're going to be on when you make that decision. We lost our home, we lost almost everything, and then another miracle happened. A friend of ours, friend of the family, set us up pretty well for a while when he found out that we lost everything, and we ended up living in a trailer in a campground. And one day, well, let me say this: when a woman loses her home, it's very heartbreaking, because everything she had is put into that home to decorate it and to make it her and to be a picture of who she is, and It shows her, especially with Jody, it shows her heart for people when she sets up a home that is presentable, where angels feel at home. This is what she does. Anyways, losing the house and now living in a trailer park or campground was hard on both of us. One day, while I was at work, she came home from work to the trailer, and somebody had busted out a couple of the windows in the trailer, and that was enough. She broke down, couldn't go back to work. She was feeling that she was losing absolutely everything. Now come home and find the trailer that we're now living in broken into or windows busted out. And so as Jody does, sometimes she heads to the mountains. And she drove up toward Mount Rainier, stopped at the river that goes along 410 up to Greenwater. And she parks her car and walks out to the middle of the river to sit on this boulder, hops, skips, and jumps on these rocks, get out to the boulder. And she sits on that rock and she just cries and cries and cries and prays and cries out to the Lord and is totally broken. All of a sudden she hears this wind coming up the river. And she's hearing it coming. It's getting closer and closer and closer. And the wind says, "Trust me." And it passes by her. It says, "Trust me." And she couldn't believe what she heard. And was looking around thinking I was there. And I was at work. So she went back to praying and crying and calling out to the Lord. And here comes this wind up the river again. "Trust me." Passed right by her. "Trust me." That event changed everything. We have no plan A. We have no plan B. We have no plan C. We have no plan. We put our lives in God's hands because nothing we did was working out. No plan that we could form was going to work out. So, we put ourselves in God's hands. And surrendered to what He wanted to do in our lives. It's one of those hallmarks in life that changes things. Along with the day you got saved or the day that the God filled you with His Spirit. These little hallmarks along the way are treasures to hold forever. I was listening to a preacher one time, a few years ago, and he said something very profound that God showed him. We have our lives all planned out. We're going to work, we're going to retire, we're going to fish, we're going to be with the grandkids, we're going to go here, we're going to go there, we're going to plan out our entire lives together, me and the wife, and this is the way that it's going to go. This is the plan. And you think you have everything set up. Well, if we're walking with God and we're being challenged and we are telling the Lord, not my will, but your will, which is what He's calling us to do. He says, that canvas that you're painting on, your future, all your plans, your desires, I want that canvas from you. I want you to hand me the canvas. And then he says, the paint that you're painting with, I want you to give me those paints. And while you're at it, give me the brushes also. And then you're left with nothing. Except for what God has planned for you. This is a place where we are at today as Christians in this nation, is that there is God's plan, and He has called us to walk with Him in it. There are our desires and things that we want to happen, and dreams that we have of retiring, going here, going there, doing this, doing that, visiting the grandkids, whatever it is that we have set up for ourselves in our future. He's requiring that from us. And there's a reason why. So that God can use you for His glory. When you and I bowed the knee to Christ on that day, we said, whatever your will is, that's what I want. And that was so strong in us to say that because He met us on that day and nothing else mattered. At the foot of the cross, we met Jesus. And at the foot of the cross, there was no pride. There was no doing it our way. God had a hand in humbling us and bringing us to the point of surrendering to Him at the foot of the cross. And God has called us to live at the foot of the cross. Not my will, but your will be done. This is what we have prayed for years. We would have prayed that the will of God be done and that He be glorified in our lives. That is what we want. And there's no other way around it but to surrender. And we can surrender, and we can say, my will I have put aside, and your will I want to be done in my life. And you can still have a good life. You can be with the grandkids. You can go here, go there. You can do this, you can do that. You can follow your plans. But what do you do when God interrupts those plans and taps you on the shoulder, and I need you over here to do this? Are you ready to give up whatever to go do His will? I know God has something special in store for Jody and I because we lost early. This has been 11, 12 years ago, I believe. Right after we celebrated our 10th anniversary, that's when everything busted apart. And so we are ready to be moved, picked up, and taken wherever the Lord wants us to go. This is something we have committed our lives to. And when we made that decision, God started meeting us. He gave us this place to live, 100 acres out here in the forest. It's beautiful. And we love it here. And He's given us passions in our life. You know, for me, I have a passion to be a better father, a better husband. And I think I don't even meet those requirements to be that very often. I have a passion for the photography that I do and the music that I play. But the most important thing I have a passion for is truth. And this is what this channel is about, is truth. Truth matters. Truth is everything. Truth is who God is. God is beholden to truth. And if He is, then we must be also beholden to truth. This is something we're going to talk about very soon. In fact, the next time that I'm with you, we're going to talk about this. Truth. Wisdom, knowledge, understanding, truth that God gives. And just as a teaser, the reason that we look at the world differently as Christians, the reason we see things in a more realistic viewpoint as Christians, the reason when we hear something, we are able to discern good from evil, in the most part, is because we have taken the Word of God to ourselves and eaten it, drank it, breathed it. It's become our life, is the Word of God. And God promises in Proverbs, which I'm going to bring up next time, that if you cherish my word as silver and gold, it's more important. It's everything to you. Then I will give you wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. God's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, so that when you hear things, when you see things, you see them from His point of view instead of your point of view. This is what the Word of God does. The Word of God separates those who walk with God and those Christians who don't walk with God in the way that He has called them to walk with Him. This is a very important subject, especially today in the world that we live in. We can see the evil that is all around us. We can see how the devil is manipulating the social structure, education, entertainment, government, and the church. And those whose intent is to glorify God with their lives and be all that He has called them to be are in a very honorable, delicate, and precarious position. And in the end, we are going to say it was all about Him and not about us. Just as Jesus said, it's all about the Father. Only He is good. It's the Father. It's all about the Father. In 1 Corinthians 15:28, God hands the creation back over to the Father and subjects Himself to the Father so that God may be all in all. God is glorified, not man. And in this context in 1 Corinthians 15:28, not even Jesus. Jesus throws down His crown at the Father's feet so that God may be all in all. And then it says, we will know Jesus even as we are known. He's one of us. Amazing. Amazing. This is why I love Him so much. Jesus, Jesus, you are mine, and mine forever and ever. Yes. I'll see you next time.